Where am I? What? What the fuck? Just gonna get the tank. Okay, come on, let's do this. Let's go! Help me! What? What the fuck? This is an average match in Battlefield 6. Notice the distinct lack of saturated colors, exaggerated skins, and the overall focus on what the flipping boink is going on. Battlefield players are weird, in a sense. They'll run through a storm of bullets and explosions just to revive a single stranger. Or they'll spot an enemy tank and charge at it with nothing but a repair tool. They'll jump out of a jet, snipe the pilot in another jet, and then jump over to that jet and steal it. And none of this necessarily has anything to do with winning. And it's not that they don't want to win, it's just that winning isn't the point. So, what is the point of Battlefield? Well, you see, Battlefield 6 stands in stark contrast to other modern shooters. Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Overwatch, Valorant. All these games focus heavily on being live service games that's always gonna offer you rewards and levels to grind for. Call it the Fortniteification of Gaming, cause that game has seriously caused irreversible damage to both gamers and developers' expectations of what a game should be like. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind a free game needing some form of monetization, but even paid games have premium battle passes and expensive skin these days. All these games will bombard players with all sorts of bright colors, sometimes loot, constant hit markers, numbers, events, and a whole lot of FOMO. They're not really designed to necessarily be fun, but to be addictive. And we let them be, cause I've definitely spent a lot of time in these games. Now, what originally urged me to make this video was a clip of XQC saying some abhorrently stupid things about Battlefield. It needs a good progression, reasons to fucking log in daily. It needs battle pass shit for sure, and ranked game modes. As I said, the Fortniteification of the gaming industry makes players just expect all these live service elements. As if a game that doesn't try to be as addictive as possible is gonna die after a week. But Battlefield was never really about those things. Ever since Battlefield 2042 released, as well as the COD fatigue happening every year, Battlefield players have been begging for a game with no operators, no silly skins, and no battle passes. Just a dull, gritty, and realistic looking game with normal skins, as well as some good and chaotic gameplay. And now, we actually have it. We are finally back! Whereas other games might make you obsess about ranks and stats, Battlefield doesn't need that. Sure, there are stats, and seeing some good numbers on the scoreboard will always be satisfying, but even if your KD is horribly low, you can still enjoy the game as intended while also being helpful. You see, instead of expecting all the players to be skilled killers with insane movement tech, the game expects players to play like an actual team. In fact, you will even get punished if you try to move like you're playing Call of Duty. In the game, there's 4 different classes, each being essential in every match. First off, the Assault class. The typical frontline infantry role, plays aggressively and is effective at taking control of objectives and pushing the frontline, and they even have an adrenaline booster that can make them go crazy. Then there's the Engineer class, which has a focus on assisting and taking out vehicles. If they're really ballsy, they'll single-handedly go face to face with a tank and slowly chip away its health with the repair tool. They also have boom boom weapons. The Support class, which, as you might expect, supports the team with heals, ammunition, and most importantly, revives. A good medic will not care much about kills and can really turn the tide if there's a lot of down players. They'll run around like Neo in the Matrix, dodging every bullet aimed at them in order to revive their teammates. And lastly, the Recon class. These are your typical snipers with tools that will help them spot enemies for themselves and their team. All these classes can be combined to make an unstoppable team that don't necessarily have to focus on kills, but rather assisting each other so they can take control of the objectives and get some epic moments out of it. You see, the place where Battlefield games really shine is when it gets immersive, epic, and cinematic. One of my favorite things about the game is the sound design, especially if you turn on the War Tapes mix. Like, you just have to. The sounds are unreal. Just listen to this. You can feel the sounds in your body. They're so crisp, punchy, and detailed. My favorite weapon sound has to be this weapon, which I don't remember the name of, but I'll put it up on screen. It sounds like something straight from hell. But not only does this game have some of the best sound design I've ever heard in the game. No, the graphics are really good as well. They opted not to add all the new fancy tech like ray tracing. Instead, they wanted to use their own, and also a little old, engine. Cause according to them, this was the only way to make the destruction and physics work. But hey, don't fix what ain't broke. It was clearly the right option, as the game looks absolutely stunning. And it also runs really well. Sure, you can probably tell it's using older technologies if you really pay attention, but you won't notice during normal gameplay. Battlefield 1 was also way ahead of its time. Like, they could release that game today and I just go, hell yeah! And now combining all the design aspects together creates the perfect atmosphere for a game like this. The sound a building makes while it's getting bombed with the dust blowing everywhere, or the sound of a rocket flying right by you and hitting something behind. All the craters and destroyed buildings that dynamically shape the map. Everything that happens in the game is just chaotic, dynamic, and hits just the right spot. It just feels right. And that feeling is exactly what players come to Battlefield for. They want to get immersed in the action, to feel like they're really there, but you know, without the actual pain and suffering that you'd find in a real war. No matter what you do, you're gonna experience something insane in every match. Something straight out of a movie. And that is what makes the game so fun. It just attracts cool moments like a magnet. So winning doesn't really matter when all the fun is in the experience itself. You can play a match that was totally in favor of the other team, but it doesn't matter as long as something cool happened while you got absolutely shit on. Maybe you're a skeptic COD fan that isn't entirely convinced that this is what Battlefield players like. Well, you want some proof? Okay then. Jarvis, show them the proof. Jarvis? Okay, I guess I'll show you. Battlefield 6 features a tool called Portal. This is a hub where players can create custom game modes and maps. And guess what the most played game mode is right now? That's right, Hardcore Conquest. This is a version of Conquest with no minimap. The HUD is dynamic and practically never shows, there's no hit markers, and most importantly, everyone takes increased damage. So this is a much more intense and immersive way to play the game than the usual game modes, and it clearly indicates exactly what makes the game so great. It really is that immersion that players seek. This game mode really sucks me into the game and it gets my heart jumping like nothing else. It's something you can't really get in any other game on this level. The closest would be Hell Let Loose or Arma, but that's more of a milsim than a shooter, so it's not quite scratching the same itch. Now the previous two entries in the franchise didn't exactly live up to expectations. I never really got to play Battlefield 5, but I did play a fair amount of 2042. And I'm by no means a Battlefield expert, but even without having much experience with other games than Battlefield 1, I could just tell something was off in 2042. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, but it never really seemed to click. Perhaps it was the more open maps, the slightly more saturated colors, or perhaps it was the operators and battle passes. Whatever it wasn't scratching the Battlefield itch. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we finally have a proper Battlefield game again. A game that doesn't chase live service trends to be fun or stay relevant, but a game that embraces its chaotic casualness and doesn't need any ranked game modes. It's not about stats, and it's not a game you play to win. It's a game you play to experience. Every match feels like its own story. Unpredictable and somehow always cinematic, because that's the magic of Battlefield. It captures the feeling of being a part of something bigger rather than playing it for your own gain. So, maybe Battlefield players don't really care about winning, but that's exactly why they always will.